Okay, friends, it was a long time since I recorded any video, so I was actually thinking about the contribution which I can make, because I'm not a reaction channel, yeah, I'm thinking about this as more like contribution to knowledge about BAND-MAID. So there were actually many things on my mind. Maybe one of the videos which I actually wanted to record was about manners and all the, you may call it Easter eggs, or you may call it references in the video, but I'm still thinking about it. It requires more research actually. So then I decided that, yeah, I may record some thoughts about this video, Afterlife. The reason why I'm doing it right now, quite a long time actually after the video was released, is because I listened recently to a lecture about geishas and Maikos. Well, even the terminology actually became clear to me. People were saying that Maiko is apprentice geisha. No. Maiko is geisha from Kyoto. So in Tokyo, Edo, it was the name of the city in ancient Japan. So it was actually Kyoto and Tokyo. It's basically, if I'm correct, Western capital and capital Western. So basically Tokyo, Kyoto. So it's basically the two kanjis which just change places. So it was, Kyoto was the ancient capital and Tokyo was a new capital. So in Kyoto they were called Maiko, and in Tokyo they are called geisha. So for some strange reason, actually not strange, there's probably some reason for that, but BAND-MAID felt more affinity towards Kyoto than towards Tokyo. They based in Tokyo, so they filmed this MV Secret Maiko Lips in Kyoto, so that's why it's Band Maiko. So they think of themselves as Maiko. Well, it's very interesting actually, because the thoughts which I had, I think it's just my personal interpretation. Don't take it as any authoritative. I don't even know Japanese at the necessary level, very rudimentary. But I feel that maid culture, has its roots in Maiko culture, in geisha culture, and it actually required a lot of things to learn before I realized that. So let's refresh Afterlife MV in our minds, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, let's do it.
I wanna know, yeah, I want to know, yeah, I'm fed up. What do you mean? メモに迷って What's over time? What's over time?
So that's it. Well, I'm sure you all watched it many times, so you probably remembered it well. Oh, okay. So the first thing which we all have noticed, of course, is that this girl is in the at-home cafe, right? At-home cafe. So at-home cafe is a network, is a chain. What do you call it in English? Chain, yeah, chain of cafes, yeah. Where Miku actually worked, she was called Himawari, which means sunflower. And it's not, of course, exactly that same cafe because it's really a chain. So there are many cafes like this. Some people even said it's like the biggest or like one of the biggest chains of maid cafes in Japan, but definitely pretty well known. And they say that they like mostly open for the idea of filming a video in there, especially for foreign audience. So I was actually thinking that they should have put more Easter eggs into this movie. Like this picture should have been picture of BAND-MAID. Or like, I don't know, at least Miku and, I don't know, those dressed in maid dresses, but whatever, just random girls from at-home cafe. Probably a real cafe, actually. A real picture in a real cafe. So, first of all, the video is not related to the lyrics in slightest degree. Lyrics is about the relationship which went wrong, which is devoid of sincerity, and all that stuff. If you read it carefully, it's just a frustration from a girl in relationships to a boy, and so it's not related to maid cafe or to this particular video. So what this video is about? The video is about the frustration, frustration again, but a different type of frustration. That's frustration from work, which, well, I would not say it's, of course, specific to maid cafes or to Japan in general, because we all know how frustrating can the work be, especially in customer service departments. Yeah, so in restaurants specifically, because of course all sort of crazy people come to restaurants, and it could be very difficult sometimes to work with these people. So I didn't work in a restaurant ever. It was not developed as such in the Soviet times when I was a student. I could have worked there if I would be born later. But I was a service engineer, so it's pretty much the same. You facing the customer, and customers can be all sort of difficult people. So what we see is that the girl, she's staring at the cup. Is it a cup? Okay, a lot of, yeah, cup and plate and everything. So she dropped a tray with all these dishes, and dishes were broken, and she's just staring at it, and obviously she's going crazy about it. Like, look at her face, yeah. So she's the stone face. So she's like, obviously a lot is going in her mind. And then she goes backstage. She goes, not backstage, it's not stage. She goes to dressing room and vents her frustration. So, okay, a little bit about the relationship to geisha culture, which I wanted to speak about. Initially, I wanted to make this video like rather longer and discuss the geisha culture as such, what I have learned from that lecture and what I was reading after this. But then I thought it would be much better to base that analysis of like full analysis of geisha culture, full, of course not full, just very cursory, but whatever, on Maiko videos, on Secret Maiko Lips and Gyoncho. So this one will be rather short. Things which I wanted to mention. First of all, why BAND-MAID is so great? Because they have like 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years, like, I don't know, they say that first geishas appeared like in 8th century, so more like 1,200 years ago, something like this. So it's a huge culture behind that. And BAND-MAID is actually building on that. Like maid culture is building on that, it's absolutely clear. And BAND-MAID is building on that. I should say that geishas were really, for 1,000 years, they were trained as entertainers. It was not easy business because geishas were like, they were basically like slaves in many respects. Even there was this moment in that lecture about geishas, which I heard, where it was forbidden to enter, that was called the tea house or whatever, where geishas were performing. It was forbidden to enter it for samurai with weapons. So he was leaving his swords at the entrance, outside of the house. And one of the reasons for this was that, as I'm saying it now, it even sounds strange, but that's how the guy explained it, and basically that's how the story goes. It was said that if geisha would get any knife in her hand ever, she would just pierce herself immediately to end her miserable life. So the sufferings which geisha were going through during their normal course of work was unbearable for human being. So any geisha would willingly wish to end her life any moment. Well, I understand it's probably exaggeration, but that's how the story goes. So yeah, one of the explanations why samurai would not enter geisha room with his sword is because geisha would kill herself. And you can imagine how much frustration, pent frustration, was beneath the surface in that geisha culture. And you see that any crack, like anything would just put a little bit more pressure, like broken dishes, and geisha would go nuts. Maid girl would go nuts. Everybody would go nuts. Everybody, all cafe was just going nuts, because the whole life was unbearable. Where is that? Yeah. Everybody's going crazy. Even the manager is just, yeah. Even the manager is going crazy. So, but the thing which I wanted to emphasize was that nevertheless, it was 1,000-year-old culture of entertainment. It was actually the one more thing which I wanted to mention. There was this girl, that geisha, Yuki Kato, which is more known as Oyuki Morgan. So, Oyuki Morgan was a geisha from Kyoto, so she was supposedly called Maiko. And she married George Dennison Morgan, nephew of Pierpont Morgan of the Morgan banking dynasty, so quite a rich man. And she was living in the States for many years. And it was said that her house was really a place widely known for the level of, like, everybody wanted to go there, because Yuki was really master of entertainment. Like, she was geisha, she was doing what she was trained to do, and it was unheard of level of entertainment, like of this what's the word? I don't know this word in English. There were no ways of entertainment in those times, in like beginning of 20th century, except for people going to some reception at a rich man's house. So Morgan family was basically doing receptions for other rich people in the city, and Yuki was a star of that house. Everybody said, "Oh, let's go to Morgan's. Yuki will be performing today." And then it struck me actually that it just a lot of things probably which we don't even think about, and that's the whole culture, how BAND-MAID was doing it. Yeah, how they're doing this entertainment. There were a lot of things actually I wanted to talk about, but maybe, like, for instance, this throwing of fan. What geishas were known about? They were really highly educated. So even this throwing of a fan was not just, as it is shown here, you had to kick out the certain toy, not a toy, it was like a pendant or something standing on top of that thing, which Saiki performed here masterly. Yeah? But the way the fan would then lie on the floor meant a lot to them. So each position of a fan after it has fallen was associated with a certain verse from the Japanese poems. And geishas would have to know it all, and they would recite a certain poem depending on how the fan would lie. So you can guess from it how complicated was that culture, and geishas were really, they played any kind of instrument. They knew all the poetry, so they could entertain people. They were playing like special games, with people, lots of stuff. And that's what BAND-MAID is building on. You see, it's not just something should not be taken lightly. It's a huge culture of entertainment, but yeah, a lot of frustration as well. But it's also very interesting that how this Afterlife MV finishes. Like, you see that so at a certain moment when BAND-MAID starts playing at the background, so BAND-MAID is playing in a room next to this dressing room, and at a certain moment they just all harmonize, and they all find harmony, at least harmony. They synchronized and become happy. They actually become happy. So they dance in unison, and then they really become like one family, BAND-MAID appears here on the screen, on the TV screen over there. And then you see that they just like this family portrait, which is really funny, but here they are, very happy. So, the idea about this is actually, that's what geishas are supposed to do. They make people happy. So after difficult working day, people go to geishas, and geishas make them happy. All right. yeah, I would like to speak much more about this, but already this video is over 20 minutes. So, enjoy BAND-MAID. BAND-MAID will make you happy. If you're frustrated at your job, BAND-MAID will save you. Bye and see you soon.